Hi everyone, welcome to St Albans Property Meet, September 2024. Start of autumn, it is getting a bit darker, but we're going to be meeting a lot of entrepreneurs, as you can see behind us, and we're going to add huge value and try to get their insights on what is happening both in the business and property world. Get ready for all the value and the fun. Hi everyone, first guest of the night. We've got the wonderful Lucy, who runs an interior design business. Thank you, Lucy. And I assume you are the entrepreneur yourself.
Yeah.
And I was talking to you off here, and we're trying to get a bit of focus. I think the two key areas you help people with is they want their main house or a second home to make it look really beautiful.
Yeah.
And also you said you help build property developers showrooms or do key things inside them to make them look all beautiful and sexy for the clients. Is that right?
Yeah, so I predominantly work on residential projects. So I work for the high net worth individuals, so people who are looking to invest in their property, in their home, and make it somewhere that's livable, functional, and a space they love. So I also have worked with prime developers who need to make one of their developments sort of sing, so that when someone comes to view it, they can see what they're purchasing and the potential of the project.
And also, before I forget, she is the expert in your corner for September 2024. Trust me, it's a privilege. I've been fortunate to be one of those as well. So how are you finding the event? And obviously talking to entrepreneurs about how to help them. How have you been finding it? What have they been asking you? What's their top one question?
So it's very busy, as you can see, which is good. I think everyone's got a good energy today. It's September, the kids are back to school, the summer's over. So I've been talking to a few people that are looking at selling their homes, and they're looking to have like a little bit of a refresh to make it more saleable. So what's on trend? I don't tend to work with trends a lot because I work with the end client. I look at their personality and how the house will reflect their style.
Wow.
But obviously, if you're looking to sell to an investor, you want your property to be sort of clean, functional. It's always good to have furniture in there so they can see how the space is used.
I guess one of the big benefits, what you do is you make sure the property gives the best view for it, the best perspective to get the most value, because people don't realise space, depending on how you structure it, can make a huge difference. Because you could have the same room, looks not great, then you restructure a different way, it looks amazing, and that can add huge value to the property.
And some people just don't naturally have that vision, and that's fine. It's you've either kind of got it or you haven't. So you might walk into a property and think, oh, this is really small, there's not enough space, but once you've dressed it properly, actually it shows you the impact of what that can do.
To be honest, I think a lot of people struggle. We think we've got vision, and they're going to see a house and it's like bright orange paint or something, and you're like, because everyone's got a slightly different taste, but you're going to do it so the person who's going to buy it or the person's going to appreciate it for the longer term. And I guess that's why you probably don't look at just trends, you look at what the personality of the person is, because ultimately they often don't know what they need.
And a lot of my job is getting to know my client, the way they live, like do they have children, do they have pets, do they work from home, are they out of a lot? And obviously I work with high net worth clients who might have one or two homes, so one home might be specific for one part of their life, whereas the other is a holiday home.
Do you do a lot of holiday homes? Do you find that they're still quite big? Because I always have to mention a bit of tax. Right now, a lot of issues around tax or second homes, all the issues on capital gains tax, inheritance tax. We're lucky we can even be able to own a home. It's going forward, it sounds like. Are you finding that people are still investing in their second holiday homes?
Yeah, and I think when you've got that level of client as well, it is always an investment. I mean, property, you're never going to lose money on a property, and it's just having that second home to go to at the drop of a hat. I've worked on an incredibly wonderful lake house in Italy.
Wow. So you mean the ones in Europe and abroad as well?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a nice. Is that one of your best projects you feel, going abroad and doing
I would say it's probably one of my proudest projects. Alongside, I did a project which was a second home for another family, but that was in Mayfair.
Wow.
But it was a really high spec. It was incredible. It was a really lovely project to work on.
So if you want interior design and you want to look at high spec, Lucy's the person to have a chat with and try to get her on board. Lucy, thank you so much for adding that value to our audience. They're going to love that. They're also going to understand there is a big difference. And when you get professional help who know what they're doing, it can make a huge difference. So thank you much and enjoy being the expert in the corner today. Perfect, thank you. Hi everyone, we've got Grafton, finance extraordinaire commercial broker, and I know he's helped so many people. Grafton, thank you. And he's going to share some wisdom with us. And he's joined the St. Albans Property because I haven't seen you for a while here.
I said, I used to come. I've come, but I haven't been for a little while.
How are you finding the business environment right now, looking at entrepreneurs, property investors, property developers? Who's finding financing easier to get or harder at the moment?
Property investors are finding financing easier
Yeah.
than property developers.
Why is that?
Main reason, a lot of people who are getting into property development, the lenders are asking for experience.
Got it.
So unless they have like a joint venture with an experienced developer, or the developer is putting some skin in the game, they're struggling, even though they have the money to invest.
When you say wanting experience, how much experience are they looking like? A couple of years, done one big project, couple of projects?
Couple of projects, depends on what they want to do. So for instance, if a chap has only built, say, 2 two-bedroom houses, and all of a sudden he has an opportunity to build a 10 block of flats, to them that's still lack of experience because he's never done something of that magnitude, and it creates all that complication. So it's what I'm finding is that the investors who done a bit of homework and find a good developer who have had experience in what they want to do, it's a lot easier to get funding.
So really, the experience drives whether you can even get the conversation started financing. Then it's about the numbers.
Yeah.
What I
the
always
first
ask
thing
people
they
on the numbers right now, we're talking about in September 2024, what is the GDV return that they're expecting? What percentage against GDV?
20% is a good figure they generally look for.
Minimum. I think that's risky, big time. Because I always say to people, you start about 30-35%, some in the 40%, because at the end it may end up being 20%.
Well,
Because
and that's why it's the minimum. So it's a good,
Yeah.
because with your 35, you've built in contingencies, which always happen. It's inevitable. It never goes to plan. And so therefore, the baseline is anything less than 20, the lender is thinking, I don't think this is going to work because there's always contingencies.
wow, okay. Which makes sense, everyone. You've got to get the numbers right, but now you've got to have experience. With property investors, they're more reliable because they do it against the asset, right? Because you've already got the asset. What about average trading business entrepreneurs? How they find it? Because I always find that's quite challenging because, and I hope I'm saying this right, and I know Grafton will correct me, there's 2 parts really. They're looking for something to back it with an asset and cash flow.
Correct.
And this is always really difficult now.
It is massively difficult, and to be honest, the fluctuation with utility bills aren't helping because now a lot of lenders are factoring in the utility cost when they calculate serviceability.
Got
You know?
it.
So if a client say, well, all right, my utility is fixed for the next 3 years, 5 years, they're more favorable than someone whose utility is just variable.
Are they looking at what's affordable for the person and what's not? So they're trying to look at what their net cash flow is, right? Even if they're using limited companies, they're using that to then say, if you're doing it against your main home, whether it's a first or second charge,
It still doesn't matter. It all
Right.
boils down to serviceability, and they do the stress testing as well. So for instance, yes, base rate is 5 now, but they might say, okay, because of this particular industry, we're going to stress it at 8%,
wow, yes.
just to make sure that if anything goes a little bit wobbly, you can still afford to make your payments.
So Grafton, just to emphasise, what he means by the 8% is when you do your business calculations, can it hold an interest charge of 8% and capital repayments on top from a cash flow perspective. So if they can do both of those things, then you use security on your main asset, which may be your main house. Then they're looking at affordability. Have you got enough money to service that cost? Because they will secure it, likely maybe secure it against the asset as security and then do a business loan. And this is where it gets really risky. Also, I think you raised before, I love talking to people like Grafton because he gives a lot of insight. EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization, what multiples are they looking at?
Generally, sort of, some lenders are 1.5 times, some lenders are 2 times cover.
Wow.
They look at, yeah. A lot of the high streets are doing 2.5 times cover.
Right.
But the more flexible lenders are sort of 1.5.
Wow. So he's talking about the profits wise, so in relation to the mortgage interest, isn't it? And is it the capital as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's whatever you're going to pay on a cash flow, what is the return on investment on that?
Yeah, and it's in relation to the EBIT there as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's say, for instance, if your monthly payment is going to be £1,000 a month,
Yeah.
that equates to £12,000 per annum. Then those that are using the 2%, the 2 times cover, they need to see you have an EBITDA of say 24,000
Yeah. Love it.
to cover that.
That's a great way of showing it. So you do need a combination of people to support you in these. A good accountant tax advisor, good commercial broker, but also you need to be looking forward. And a lot of people don't, do they? They just look at right now and they're like, oh, I've just got to do my accounts for example. No, it's been more than that. That the accounts are a reflection of your business strength.
Yes.
And being able to forecast ahead and see the problems is so important.
And with us, I mean, when I'm talking to clients as well, especially those commercial clients that you mentioned, who they might be renting and thinking, okay, in the future I want to buy the property I'm renting. It is absolutely prudent that they leave funds in the account.
Wow.
And this is where a good accountant comes into plan. So when they're chatting with their accountant and says, okay, in 2 years, 3 years, we're thinking of buying this property when our lease is up, for instance.
Right.
So when they have a lease review, they might say to the landlord, have you thought of selling this property? And if the landlord say yes, there's an opportunity because it's an asset on your balance sheet, it's yours, rather than you renting. But if they were taking all the money out, for whatever reason over the last couple of years, the banks look at that and think, well, he hasn't been leaving money in, whether it's he's trying to avoid tax or not, so he used up all it. So it's worth, as an accountant, when you're chatting to your clients as well, to say, well, what are your plans in the next 3 years, 5 years, in connection with the property you have?
I think Grafton raised a great point. That's an owner-managed business buying a commercial property for their business, so they become obviously the property owner and therefore they have to pay lease. I think there's a big issue around tax as well, getting specialist tax advice, which we happen to give to a lot of people around something like capital allowances. How does that commercial property start? What is the relief that you're getting? Is it good to hold it in the limited company? Should you use an LLP? Should you use something called a SAS pension? Potentially a SIP? So many. OPCO, PropCo. And it's this kind of stuff that people can add huge value because you compound your benefit. So you start becoming your own bank eventually. And that's the difference maker. And I think people like Grafton are invaluable in that process because you need all of it. Also, you need a good lawyer as well, probably a commercial lawyer, to help you be able to set the agreements. Both what it's going to be for you and if you're subleasing, what does that look like? Because there's so many implications. There's capital gains tax potentially, inheritance tax, corporation tax, whether you pay tax zero in pensions. All of these are huge.
They're massive. I mean, what I'm finding now as well is that a lot of clients who are buying commercial property are using the OPCO-PropCo format.
Yeah.
Because then that gives them the flexibility of a couple of years, they want to retire, the trading business is doing really well, they can sell that as a going concern and they still have the property.
Because they've got recurring income, because as long as the business is strong, it will stay in that because it's got a lease agreement.
Or they can lease it out, and now they have the
I
property
think
still.
based on, as we are in September 2024, because things may change in about a couple of months' time, it's a good idea to get the advice, because something called inheritance tax becomes a big problem depending on when you do that shift. Because if you own it and it's in your company, it's part of your trading business. So you get something called business property relief. But when you're just a landlord, that changes. And right now, pensions is a good way.
Yes,
and you
very
can
good.
move it between structures if you get good advice without triggering a lot of tax off.
Correct.
And a lot of people don't understand that part.
No.
That's why it's so invaluable. And it can be the difference whether you're making a lot of money or just giving it away. This is why you gotta love St. Albans Property Meet. When you feel like Grafton, you give huge value. Obviously, we've tagged Grafton in. Anybody who needs some advice, help, I can tell you, good person to go to and try to get an understanding and try to plan that along with your other professional advisors. Grafton,
That's it.
you are
And
a
I'm
star.
on LinkedIn, Grafton, the finance best man barber. If you want to connect to me on LinkedIn.
Don't you love it? He doesn't promote himself. As you know, we love gaining value. We've got a person who runs a construction company and helps many property developers and private clients who like investing a bit of money to grow their, make their value of their property a lot better and more attractive. Jerome, thank you.
Hey.
And he's going to add some value here. Jerome, you were telling me off there the difference, and this is the one that you have to look between being a builder and a construction business. Can you tell the audience what's the difference? Because most people won't know the difference.
So your builder will really turn up in a van and basically say, yeah, I can fix you this, I can fix you that, I can put your small extension in. We're probably talking about typically project size going up to what, 350,000, maximum $500,000. You know, they'll know an electrician, they know, you know, but they'll have to do all the bits themselves. They'll have to run the program themselves, and they might not have looked at the program, and they might have not necessarily fitted all the if, buts and whys in when it comes to financials. As in, like, they might come up with a few surprises rather than look
Just
at
to jump in on that one, really good point. I guess the project management is a differentiator.
Yes,
and
that's
that is
definitely.
the difference between a construction business and a building business, because you'll see them, it's sort of just ducking and diving and getting things in, whereas a construction business will have a project management part of the process, probably getting technical, probably like a Gantt chart or something like this to show the program will work.
Yes, you'll have
And
a Gantt chart at the start of the project, and then even when you go through the project, a client might say, oh, you know what, well, we actually fancy this or that.
Yeah.
But on the other side, we also manage that.
Yeah.
So before we start, as they call it in the trade, closing up the walls, as in like when you put the plasterboard to the wall, we'll make sure that you've got all the sockets in the right places
Yeah.
before you want them.
And I guess
So we'll be asking the silly little question of like, okay, how big is your plasma screen going to be, or your LED television? Because if you want a 32-inch in the kids' bedroom, but in your own bedroom you want, I don't know, a 60-inch, even where we put the socket on the wall, it's going to make a difference because we want to make sure that it's hidden, right?
I think Jerome adds huge value there, because a lot of people don't know, especially if they're property developers, as I said, or high net worth individuals who want to invest a lot, redo their properties back to back, or brick to back to brick, I should say. They don't really understand how to differentiate, because they go to someone, and then what a lot of people have feedback, and one of my good friends is from the construction industry. They always feel they'll get let down, and it's because they don't know how to evaluate what a good construction business looks like
And put
what a
yourself in the
non-good.
shoes of the people that are actually going to be living in or using that space, and saying what is comfortable for you. You know, do you want a standard kitchen, or do you want something that you might bring in your own kitchen designer and say, actually, my work, you know, I'm not going to lie, and I know you've already told me, I tend to be a bit taller than average, right? I would want to have a work surface that's slightly higher than the box standard work surface, because it doesn't strain on my back. My partner's the same, she's also tall, so we would go for a kitchen surface that's taller.
Just going to drop this in. Jerome's originally from Holland, you can definitely see he's got the tall Dutch gene, because every time I go there, I feel like a midget over there.
I'm just average, son.
They all got, I don't know what is in the water out there, and they all walk a lot out there to keep so healthy. I guess, you know, when you add the value and to by the property developers, how do you illustrate what risks they've got and how do you mitigate them when you're doing projects? Because a lot of people don't know, I've got to do this. They don't have an understanding what's involved, so it's difficult for them to make a decision.
When you obviously get the scope from an architect together, which has been fed from the client of what they want, what they look at, you would still go through it, and we look at it and we call it a buildability. Right. So, and we would actually put on paper or in a meeting to you and say, look, but those are the risks. If you've got a house that's an existing house, a semi-detached, for instance, Victorian, you can do everything you want. It's like, but you just want us to change the roof tiles, right, and the roof felt and whatever. So just re-roof it. We would still put a little asterisk to it. It's depending on the actual structural integrity of the roof, because by the time we take that back, in the past we've had a circumstance where the original house was, and I know I'm going to a bit detailed. The original house was basically designed to have slates, so a slate roof. Right. During the 60s, under the previous owner, they changed it, they re-roofed it, they put concrete tiles on it, which is far heavier. So every single roof beam had been bent, had been strained, whatever. Wow. They roofed it. Now that we're basically looking at obviously changing the roof again, you've got a roof structure that's been overstressed and that you can't work with. So no engineer will actually sign the job off.
So that point is so much, because I've done some projects myself. That is such an important point. They stress test the weight, how much it can hold, and it was mind-blowing how they worked that out, because a lot of people make this mistake because they don't realise the weight is like in the tons sometimes. You don't realise how they do that, and that's the difference. Because I was going to ask you, it's not normally, I find, the architect drawing, it's the regs drawing, the structure, that's the one because otherwise you don't know what the detail and how to brace it.
And you need to, how to brace it, how to underpin it. If you're going to go for, if you've got a Victorian property and you think, I'm gonna put a basement in there, okay, how are you going to, what is your waterproofing strategy? How is it going to, because you need a separate set of drawings for that.
So much. And that's why you need someone who understands that variation, gets involved, and therefore you get your value, because normally when you
talk values, one of the key ways of values for the future owner or the current owner, and when after they've moved in, which is part of their living comfort, is what is called the U value, so the actual installation factor.
Huge. Which one it is now?
Making sure that you hit your eco spots on the right, be it solar panels, be it air source heat pump. If you've got a big garden, you might even be able to go for a ground source heat pump.
I found on that the EPC ratings now are becoming huge, right? And I think they're going to become like hot boxes, how they're working at, and it's not realistic for some of the older houses. So I know they've got an exemption, but the newer ones, but they're going to get hit by quite a lot.
Yes.
And I think these are the challenges that a lot of people are finding. I think the construction aspect is so big, people don't realise what you need to make a big difference on that. And it's really understanding that, especially when you're building new houses or you're trying to convert.
Well, there's a technology out there called wastewater heat recovery. So basically, the warm water that comes out of your shower that normally would literally flush down the drain, there is solutions out there that basically capture that heat and filter it back into your hot water tank.
Wow.
And they are probably one of the better cost benefits, way ups that you can do within your development. They don't take up any additional space, but it's just knowing about it and
planning.
Not even an architect will sometimes know about it. So even from us, when we're walking around site and during a project, we might introduce the term or the technology to an architect and a client and say, have you thought about maybe changing the spec a little bit? you can actually save a few bob over the years, and it will earn itself back.
The way I always look at when you're evaluating a construction project or property development, 3 outcomes you want from your main contract or JCT or whatever you're doing. 3 things. Number 1 for me, quality. Right? Number 2, is it on time? Right? Number 3, is it on budget, i.e. the cost of it? If you can get someone who can achieve those 3 things, that's the perfect scenario. But a lot of people focus on number 3 and not number 1 and 2. And the problem is number 3 actually becomes bigger, not less, because number 1, 2 affects number 3.
This is the thing, and yes, there is an argument to be had, like, oh yeah, but we can't always guarantee prices up front because you don't know what the market is doing when it comes to labour, when it comes to what is out there. It's like, okay, but one of the ways that you can circumnavigate that is like, okay, certain aspects of the job you might find more comfort with if somebody else provides that. So whether it's, if you want to make sure that your kitchen comes in at a certain cost, I'm not a kitchen expert, but there are kitchen designers and they come in and we'll make sure that everything's ready, and they'll come in and everything's ready for them. They'll be like, oh, lovely, because everything's ready. We'll just put the kitchen in. We'll be gone in 2-3 days.
Amazing. Joe, you can contact him. We're going to tag him in the post, and that added huge value. This is what you get when you come to St Albans Property Meet. You mean so many varieties, as you can see from the content we created here. Thank you so much for taking time.
Thank
really
you, Steve.
appreciate it.
Cheers.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, we've got everybody today. We've got an entrepreneur who runs a pest control company, Del. Nice meeting you.
Hi, Zee.
And Del, I was speaking to about, because everyone loves a laugh, you look at all the pests, that includes mice, rats and everything else. Tell us a crazy story, make the audience remember you.
Okay, crazy story. I once did a job for Sir David Attenborough.
Wow!
Yeah.
Okay.
And he had a rat in his garden, and he was petrified. And it's a true fact that he's petrified of rats.
Wow.
So, yes, yours truly went round there, and we sorted it good and proper for him. So he was a very
How
happy
did you
man.
get rid of it? Did you
I don't
shoot
know if
it?
I should say no, I just whacked it with a...
I don't think we're allowed to say that. Cut that part.
Yeah, no, it was half dead anyway. Because we'd poisoned it, but we had to finish
Which
it
part? Does he live in London? Where does he live?
Well, I don't know if he still lives there, but he used to live in Richmond.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I went to University of Leicester, it's got an Attenborough Tower.
All right.
So famous, that guy.
Yeah,
Huge.
no, yeah, absolutely massive. Yeah, so it was a funny story, like I say, and he was. I think he was forever grateful that I went round there. You know.
So I guess what you're saying, you have a lot of. Wow, that wasn't me. I promise. This is all action-packed today. That's the blooper. I was going to say, you work with management agents. That's how you help a lot of people.
I do a lot of like tenants and stuff like that.
Is that biggest part of your business, the mice
Yes.
and rat control?
That, and we used to do a lot of pigeon proofing as well. So we do
Pigeon.
a lot.
Tell me a bit about that.
So basically, if we've got pigeons on a roof or on plant areas on a roof, then we need to sort of net it all off.
Right.
So basically, we install like pigeon nettings, and we also do pigeon proofing for solar panels as well.
Right.
So pigeons are getting underneath the panels, so we actually solar proof them as well.
Do you know what? I learned so much today. How did you get into pest control? Tell everyone quickly.
Really quickly, it was a case of I had my first house when I was 21, and I got made redundant from a really good job back in the day, and I needed something to do quickly. I was only going to do it for about a month or a year or so, and then 25 years later, I'm still here doing it. So.
Do you know what? You'd be surprised how many people are like
Absolutely,
that.
yeah.
But obviously you've done quite well. You've got your own business,
exactly.
and you've been running it for a few years. Do you invest in property as well, or do anything like
Well, you know, I don't have a mortgage now. Do you know, I mean, I've got a property in Spain, which I'm living a dream on that one, and yeah, so we ain't done too badly, I don't think, you know.
this? Amazing. That's a success story. Hopefully, the government are watching this and they know that in the future you've got to protect entrepreneurs, so we have more people like Del, not less, and all leaving the country, especially to sunny exotic locations. Del, thank you so much for the few words, and I'm sure people will get a lot of value. Thank you. Hi everyone, this is the ending of our great St Albans Property Meet, and I've got the two great hosts today. They've been so busy, I've asked them loads of times, but they're lovely and they're going to give us a little bit of value on two key issues, and you've got to love it. And no disrespect to Labour Party, but you're in the front line right now. You're going to feel the pain because the decisions you're going to make are going to affect everybody. So I'm going to ask Julie on one of the big topics right now. There's something called a discount that you get on council tax right now if you're the only person living there. And I'll just give you a little background on that, because when it became the poll tax, community charge, they had little riots because they were trying to do people over by charging everybody by people. That's when they introduced council tax and they introduced discount for fairness. They think we have forgotten. I know it was 30 odd years ago, I think now, and I was a young pup then, right? Now, they're revisiting this and they think people have forgotten. All over to the legendary Julie, co-host of the Sales Vote TV. Let's get your views. What do you think about this measure?
I think this is pie in the sky, to be perfectly honest with you. So ultimately with the council tax, if you are a single person living in a property all by yourself, you can get a 25% discount on your council tax as it sits right now. Angela Rayner has allegedly given an interview, although we haven't actually seen the interview, that says she's going to scrap that completely. I don't see the logic behind that, because ultimately, if a single person is living in a property and having to pay 100% council tax, we are going to see an absolute nation where we're all living on the streets in tents, and maybe ducks and geese are going to be our neighbours. So I think what we're going to be looking at right now is really when the Renters Reform Bill comes in, we're still looking at the manifesto, we're still looking at the King's Speech. None of that was in there.
I'm going to correct you because she corrects me. Doesn't it change from Renters Reform to
Renters' Rights Bill?
She's the one that tells me, oh, got it right. Big tick, big tick. It has been a long night. She's going through all the variations. Huge value. Huge value she's just given her insight. So you think she's just sending the feelers out to see if it's going to happen or not?
I would even be surprised if it was Angela Rayner that said it.
So you're a fan of Angela Rayner?
I'm not a fan of anybody. I'm a fan of fairness. That's what I'm a fan of. And I'm seeing quite a lot of the mainstream media saying things that actually haven't come from Parliament.
I think that is, we've always got to put context, but you've got to deal with the rumour mill, because a lot of it has a little bit of truth in there, and people then try to see if it's going to get passed, and obviously we've got to hold people to account. Another co-host, thank you so much, Julie. Craig, we've got a big question for you, right? It's all everywhere. What is this about, you know, the rights of people who have council, the right to buy? Currently, they get discounts, and this has been from good old Margaret Thatcher's time. It's been 2 days, so if I got a council house, I have paid rent for so long, they give me a discount. There's a bit of a rumour, I think it's Angela Rayner again, she's getting a lot of stuff, saying that she thinks she may scrap that. What do you think, firstly, is that possible? And secondly, what's going to happen?
Who knows what's possible with this new government? You know, there's lots of stuff coming out in the media. Let's see what the devil in the detail is on the budget. But the whole point of the discount is they're trying to entice people to become homeowners. Because when you become a homeowner, do you know what? You then invest in the home. You buy new carpets, you buy new furniture. That improves the whole economy of the country. So taking away a discount, which is to motivate people to buy their own home, is actually just affecting the future economy of this country. So I think it's a crazy thing. But one thing I'd like to say is, you know, Angela Rayner is a member of Parliament. She's Deputy Prime Minister. She's in charge of housing. Write to her. Tell her the issues. I've actually written to her this week because we have a site in Leighton Buzzard where we wanted to build 2 houses in the back garden. It has an enormous garden, but Central Beds have a backland development policy that is not part of the NPPF, the National Policy Planning Framework. This is a local council's policy where they will resist any development in the back garden, and Labour want us to build as many houses as possible. We could build 2 new properties in the back garden of this house, but because of Central Beds policy, we can't. So we've managed to get a planning permission to build a single house. So I thought, well, if the Deputy Prime Minister, who's the new Housing Minister, doesn't know about these things, you actually have to tell them. So literally this week, I've written to the Deputy Prime Minister to say, you know, you should actually talk to these councils who are developing their own policies that's not part of the government's NPPF, National Planning Policy Framework, so that we can create. We're here to try and create lovely homes for people to move into, and councils are actually blocking that, where the government supposedly are trying to entice people to build new stuff. So write to your local MP and write to the Housing Minister, Angela Rayner, and tell her what the issues are, and let's see if we can actually get some lovely houses for people to live into.
So you see, we hear everything here at St Albans Property Meet. I was going to drop a little statement about Angela Rayner, no just for Angela, if you ever see this stuff, right? One was, I'm sure it's true that she benefited from the discount
100%.
benefit herself.
Yeah.
And it's ironic, she got a little trouble on the capital gains tax, or selling it, or didn't pay capital gains tax.
Didn't have a good tax advisor.
If you know one, right? So do you feel there's a bit of irony of here, that bit of hypocrisy potentially, that she may remove this for everybody else, but yet she benefited herself?
Well,
I think that was what I was reading, and I thought, this world is again a bit crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
No disrespect, Angelina, because we don't want to upset nobody.
This is a personal opinion of mine. Labour have been in the shadow government for so long. They've now won, and now they're actually realising they've actually got to make key decisions. And a lot of their own personal decisions in the past have actually been contrary to what they now have to do as the government in command. So yeah, we're going to see a lot of stuff, and there's lots. I mean, like the biggest landlord in the government at the moment is a Labour MP who's just been absolutely castigated in all the
Which
press.
is wrong. Which is wrong.
Because of
I
all the
think it's
mould
wrong.
issues and stuff.
Oh, that is not right. She shouldn't be, or he shouldn't be doing that. But the thing is, being a property investor should be promoted and doing it ethically. And most property investors I meet don't do that kind of stuff. They actually do try to do a lot. Actually, they protect us and make sure we still got properties that you can move into.
Well, there's been lots of changes over the years. You know, having electrical certificates is a good thing because you're proving you've got a lovely safe house.
Yeah,
for
of
people
course.
Having gas safety certificates is a good thing because you want to make sure your house doesn't explode because of gas
And
things. So
most-
actually having a register of landlords, I think, is a good thing because we can then get rid of the dross landlords and actually improve. You know, we are here to provide lovely homes for
Most
people.
of the landlords don't fall in that. I'm going to put it to a thing. Great property event. I'd like to thank these guys for always, and ladies, for organising such a great event, and always a privilege to be attending here and all the support we get. Thank you so much. So many attendees this year, month, who are different from before. They made a huge difference. You get this value at St Albans Property Meet. Myself and my team member Alfie and Andrew come here as well. We're hugely find this a privilege to turn up on our local patch and meet such great entrepreneurs. But these are the people that make it happen. So a big thank you.
We're here
to
every
both
month,
you guys.
first Thursday of every month, here in the centre of St Albans.
Perfect. Thank you so much.